Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the BlaQue Resource Network's Community District 31 Candidates Forum. My name is Letitia Fraser, and I'm one of the administrators at the BlaQue Resource Network. Our mission is to share resources and information to the Black residents of Queens, New York. And our goal with this forum is to provide our members with opportunities to meet and hear from the candidates who are running in the special election for City Council. I'm now going to pass it off to Hannah Russell, who's going to start our program.
Awesome. Welcome. Just want to thank you, Letitia, and the whole team at BRN. It's so important for us to understand this community that we live in and to understand that we play a role in our participation with our elected officials. So tonight, I think is going to be really special. So for those of you that reside in District 31, you definitely need to make sure that you're participating in this tonight. You'll have opportunities to share in our chat just a little bit of maybe your questions, maybe your concerns, and if we can get to them, then we'll be sure to do so. I want to talk in particular, I'm the co-founder of Caribbean Business Connections, which is a group that meets once a month right here in Queens and parts of Long Island, just to make sure that we are networking. Networking is extremely important to building your business. And so we're going to talk a little bit from the candidates, but we're also going to talk about our business community and how important it is to have thriving corridors. Small business is the backbone of this country, so it certainly is for our community. And so we want to make sure that we cover a little bit of that on tonight. We've got a great event. I am looking forward to it. I want to segue over to our host, Ms. Tanegra Blakeman.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I did want to just make a quick adjustment. Is Richard David available to do his presentation? I'd like him to go first. And then I will.
So while we get Richard on, Richard's going to talk in particular about our special election, ranked choice voting. And there are many of you that may not even know that this exists. So welcome, Richard David. Good evening.
Good evening, Hanif, and good evening, Tanegra. Congratulations to the BlaQue Resource Network for putting this great program together. I'm honored to be here to talk about ranked choice voting. This is the new way that New York City is going to be voting in elections going forward. And so in 2019, there was a referendum, and in November, 71% of voters in New York decided that we were going to switch from the way we were voting before, when you go to the poll site and you just pick one candidate. Now, what you're going to be asked to do is to pick 5 candidates. And so you're going in there and you're saying, look, I know who I want to win this election. I love that candidate, and they're going to be my number one choice. But if they don't win, for some reason, they're not the majority of they don't get the majority of votes in that election, here's my number 2. And I'm going to vote, if I can't have my number 1 choice, this is going to be my number 2 choice. And then my number 3 choice, all the way down to 5. And at the end of the night, what the Board of Elections is going to do is look at the total tally of votes. And if any candidate gets over 50%, they automatically win that election. But in this election, with 9 candidates, we know that it's unlikely that any single candidate is going to get over 50%. In that scenario, the Board of Elections is going to look at the election tally. They're going to look at the top 5 ranked candidates and begin to eliminate, starting from the lowest ranked all the way up. And so they'll eliminate rank 5. Those votes will be redistributed to rank 4, 3, 2, and 1, based on what those ballots show people wanted as their preference. They're going to continue eliminating 4, 3, and then they'll get up to the final 2 candidates. They stop there. The candidate with the most votes, when there are just 2 candidates left, is going to win this election. Now, this is incredibly historic because it allows, and it's also controversial. I'll be honest with you. This is also a controversial measure, and it's new. And we know that sometimes when election changes like this and others are thrust upon us, they don't always go as planned. Last year, for example, during the pandemic, almost 30% of the votes in this district got thrown out because for the first time we did massive absentee voting. We also know that in the history of this country, Black Americans have experienced discrimination at the poll site because of laws that have been changed. On the book, it looks fine, but in implementation, it's affected more people. And so I'm a Democratic district leader in Assembly District 31. It's my role, and I'm really excited, and I take it very seriously, to educate all of our voters, everyone, about this new system so that we can all be incredibly informed and none of us are left behind. And so this election, which starts on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, you're going to have early voting. You can go to the ballot and you can pick your top 5 candidates. And you don't have to pick 5. If you want to pick one, you can still pick one candidate. But you have a choice of picking up to 5 candidates in a ranked order that you would want to see.
So, Richard, why do you think that this is a better means of voting? I mean, this has been implemented, but do you expect this to be effective?
I'm skeptical about the system personally, but I know that our goal here is to make sure voters are not disenfranchised. I know that in this election, and so the elections where ranked choice voting is going to be used is for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, city council. New York City election. And it's a little more complicated, yes. And I want to make sure that everyone knows about this new system so we don't feel the level of distrust that I think that there is right now. And it's new, so I think it's going to take some getting used to. But I think the verdict is out about effectiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just want to remind people, many people may not know what areas District 31 covers. Do you mind just sharing those districts and those areas?
Absolutely. So City Council District 31, you all will remember Donovan Richards was the former council member here, and he ran for borough president. And because he got elected for borough president, this seat is open. So it's a special election. And those neighborhoods include Laurelton, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens, Brookville on the mainland, and then you get into the peninsula. And so it includes a large part of Rockaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Richard, I want to thank you for being on with us this evening. Thank you for your work and how passionate you are about the community that you serve. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you, Hanif. Thank you, Tanagra. And good luck to all the candidates tonight. I'm going to be listening as well because I'm really interested to see your vision for this district and how we move this community forward post-pandemic. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think we all are. We definitely want to make sure that we are getting that. So I introduced her before. I know she's in the waiting room ready to come back. Miss Tanagra Bledman, join us.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Hanif. So yes, my name is Tanagra Bledman. I am a longtime community activist and resident of Southeast Queens, as well as a political professional. I'm looking forward to hearing all of the candidates' responses to the questions. So is everyone else. I do ask that the candidates do us all a favor and be very specific, no platitudes. Tell us what is in your head, what is in your heart. That said, I'll just go over briefly for our audience the structure of tonight's discussion. The candidates have all been briefed already. And it will go like this. I am going to ask 4 questions. Each candidate will be given a minute each to respond to each of the 4 questions. They can elect to pass on a question or to continue answering a previous question for a minute. Again, each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to each question, 4 in total. They can opt to pass on a question and go back to a previous question and elaborate their responses if they feel like they weren't given enough time. Or they can pass and save that minute for a future question. Initially, each candidate will be given 1 minute to make an introduction. In alphabetical order, we will call on the candidates and ask that you keep your introduction to 1 minute. After the 4 questions have been asked, you will be given 1 minute to summarize or a closing statement. I hope all our candidates are online and ready, and we can call on the first candidate to introduce themselves. Hanif, okay, I guess we're all queued up. Understand understand the lineup, and we'll just go from there. Ms. Benjamin, you're up first. Great. Good evening. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Ms. Bledman. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of the leadership of the BlaQue Resource Network for putting on this event. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is LaToya Benjamin. Super excited to be here. City Council candidate for District 31. I'm a lifetime resident here in Southeast Queens, born and raised. For some of you may know me as serving as a Director of Economic Development for the New York State Senate here in our district. But I've been in this community for a very long time, all of my life. And I'm really excited about being a candidate in this race. I'm running to represent us and take our political leadership to the next level. There's so many things that's happening in the community. I've been serving behind the scenes in community organizing and government for well over 10 years. And I thought when Donovan Richards won as our new borough president, it was a perfect opportunity for me to step up in my leadership and to show our community how we can advance our agenda both socially and economically. So I look forward to speaking to each and every last one of you about, our agenda moving forward. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sylvina Brooks Powers. I am a lifelong Southeast Queens resident. I'm currently a homeowner in the Rockaways, where I'm raising my family. I have been serving this very community for the past 17 years in a number of roles, but where it first began for me was seeing and witnessing firsthand my grandfather's love and passion for community in Jamaica, West Indies. My grandfather was very active. He was very vocal in terms of needing to demand respect and equity for people in the community, and I share that same passion. I have served in a number of roles which provide me a very diverse portfolio that would allow me on day one to serve our community as city councilwoman, to address so many needs. What led me to run for city council was the constant reminder that when crisis hits our community, government does not respond the way that they need to. At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw where our community was not prioritized. We were not prioritized for testing sites, for PPEs, so much so that I did what I know best. I rolled up my sleeves. I was able to donate and distribute thousands of masks to our hospitals in the community, to the Joseph P. Adabo Family Health Center in the community. I was able to work in partnership with the Joseph P. Adabo Family Health Center to establish 1 day per week for our seniors to be able to be tested at a time where our seniors were not even prioritized in a way they could be able to get tested. There's so much work to be done in our community, and it is going to take all of us. It's amazing that we have so many people who demonstrate a love for community to step out and want to run for office, like myself, and it's going to take all of us to do the work. I will say what makes me uniquely qualified is my experience and my track record to deliver. I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion and want to hear what your priorities are for the 31st Council District as well. Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm Latanya Collins. Thank you, BlaQue Resource Network, for taking this opportunity to put together this exceptional forum for us to have the opportunity to share our platforms. I am a single parent. I am a business owner in the community. I've worked for the New York City public school system for approximately 20 years, 2 decades. And I have pushed for change. I developed a business called Curriculum Inc., which was centered around brain research for our youth. Also, I've made several connections in the community between school to work, partnering the youth with our community businesses so that they can get additional training. I've also done extensive work through education and culturally responsiveness, offsetting the school to prison pipeline. I look forward to sharing my platform and hearing some of the wonderful questions that you have, and also the goals for the district across the board.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Sean Rux. I'm an educational advocate. I hold a PhD in educational leadership. More specifically, I'm a facilitator of opportunity. My experience working with young people over the past 20 years has really revealed to me the failure of government, from housing policies, healthcare, police community relations, the digital divide, and economic development. More specifically, even this week, Restaurant Week is a prime example of that. Out of the 571 restaurants that were recognized, only 4 of them are representative of Southeast Queens. And that speaks volumes to me regarding the need for real change in action as opposed to simple rhetoric. All of these things have shown me how we need new leadership, creative leadership, and bold leadership. And that's what I'm offering District 31. Now, I've done it as a teacher. I've done it as a principal, a deputy superintendent. I've been fighting for District 31. I've been fighting for marginalized communities, and I will continue to fight for District 31. Elect me to city council, and I will bring those same skill sets that I've used to turn around troubled schools, to turn around our district and ensure that District 31 is at the top of the agenda. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Manny Silva. I'm running for city council because I love my community, I love my city, and I love my neighbors. And right now we have an opportunity to change the direction of the city. Right now we have profit and corporate interests driving our direction when we need to have people and people interests as well as empathy driving our direction. And that's what I plan on doing. We've been settling for crumbs when there's a whole pie on the table, and now we're here to get it. I'm fighting for dignity and dignified housing for all, a new police system with equity, with empathy at its core, and equity within our educational system. We need to continue to build people power to do it. I don't have a machine behind me. I don't have elected officials behind me, but I have hundreds of supporters from our district. And that's what we're going to build on. We're going to educate them. We're going to invigorate them, and we're going to build power with our people. Thank you for having me, and I'm just happy to be here.
My name is, can you hear me? Am I on? My name is Nancy Martinez, and I'm running for city council because it's time for a change. I've been a resident of the Rockaway for over 40 years. I have invested, and I am a businesswoman. I'm a businesswoman that started a vocational training school in the Rockaways over a decade and have trained over 20,000 individuals. It's adult training in allied health. I am chair of Rockaway East Merchants Association, which I've been helping from the beginning, the small businesses. I achieved them to get their 501c3. I helped them get a $900,000 grant. And through the pandemic, I was out there helping with the disinfecting the essential businesses that are out there and I left alone so they could know they had someone there. When it comes to healthcare, I'm in healthcare because I've been training individuals in allied health. And through the whole pandemic, I've been assisting nursing homes, facilities, healthcare agencies, and all around the 5 boroughs in the entire 31st district get through this pandemic. I am also second chair to Joseph Adabo, which they've been in the front line from the beginning, assisting them and helping them through the whole pandemic issues and getting vaccines and getting the testing sites coming on board. I am changing the whole scenario here. It's time for business individuals to come forth to help their community, to assist, because the challenging times that we're going through, we need individuals that know about education, that have done it, that know about getting job placement and helping individuals with jobs. And I've done it. And I want to be in city council. And if you elect me, I will make sure that I provide more jobs, more healthcare, more assistance, more education. And this is why Nancy Martinez is running for city council. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, everybody. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. So good to be with all of you. My name is Reverend Sherwin James. I am a candidate for the 31st Council seat. I live in Laurelton, Queens with my wife of over 15 years and our 3 children. I grew up in Southeast Queens. I grew up in Cambria Heights, went to junior high school 192, attended Andrew Jackson High School right here in Queens, attended John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where I earned my bachelor's degree in government and public administration, attended the New School of Social Research in Manhattan, the Graduate School of Management and Urban Professions, where I earned my master's degree, attended Union Theological Seminary in the city of New York, where I earned my master's of divinity, and attended Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. I've worked in city government in various capacities throughout my career. I've worked at the New York City Department of Education. I have worked at the Mayor's Office of Operations. I've worked at the New York City Department of Transportation. I have worked at the Mayor's Office of Operations, as I indicated. I've worked for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. So I have been around city government. I worked for the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. I've also worked in the not-for-profit sector. I worked as the director of the President's Fellowship Program at Yale University, and I also worked at the United Way of New York City. I think I bring a diverse background, and I think I understand the way the government works, having worked in government for as long as I have. I really believe that in far too many instances, our communities are not getting the type of services that we need. Whether it be in the Rockaways, when I served as the pastor of Bethel AME Church of Far Rockaway, or right here in my own community, I honestly believe that our elected officials have failed us. They've given us nice platitudes, but they have failed to deliver the types of resources and the types of services that our community needs. In far too many instances, we've had people who have to go outside of our district in order to get a decent education for their children. That's unacceptable. We're paying higher taxes than other areas of Queens, and certainly some of the more affluent areas of Queens, and no one has addressed that issue. So I think we need a change in leadership in the community. I think we need to start holding our elected officials to task and accountable for the job that they're required to do. They are public servants. They're not rock stars. We need to stop taking selfies, and we need to hold them accountable. And that's why I'm running for city council, because I believe we can do better and we must do better. Thank you for allowing me to have these few moments with you. God bless.
Okay. So I want to thank all the candidates. I think that was a great introduction. Negra.
Yes. Hello, guys. That was a great introduction. Thank you, candidates, for all your impassioned responses. I'm just going to go right into the first question. Rockaway public schools are failing our children. That's a fact. Our parents are not interested in politics. They're interested only in excellent schools with quality of education that give their children the opportunities they deserve. What are you going to do about it specifically? In the same order, the candidates can respond or opt to pass the question.
And keep in mind, 1 minute is what you have.
Awesome. So I think that's a very important question. So one of the things that we have to talk about when we talk about our schools, we have to talk about the lack of transparency that exists in the Department of Education. The Department of Education gets state funding. Many of our schools haven't even received funding that they were owed years ago. So we have to address the infrastructure. Working within the state Senate and having done several hearings and conversations with the board, with the Department of Education, I realized that there's people work in silos. So the executives in the Board of Education don't communicate with the elected officials, and elected officials aren't speaking to the parents. So one of the things that I'm looking to do as the next city council person is to break down these silos. We have to have conversations in one room. When the parents are aware of what's happening with the conversations, the elected officials, as well as the executives of the Board of Education. A lot of times what happens behind the scenes in politics is that, these decisions are being made without the parents, without the students, and then they come to the table and tell you guys what's happening. So I think more transparency needs to take place in this process. And if I'm elected as the next city council person, I will ensure that you are being well informed of what's happening behind the scenes and bringing more transparency to our political process. That is the first thing we need to do in order to change our education system. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tanegra?
I have posted the first question in the chat. I should do that. I'll leave it up this time, but I can repeat it for each candidate. I think that's fair. So Ms. Collins, hello. I'm going to repeat the question for you, and you'll have 1 minute to respond or the option to pass on this question and save your minute. Question is, Rockaway public schools are failing our children. That is a fact. Our parents are not interested in politics. They are interested only in excellent schools with quality education that give their children the opportunities they deserve. What are you going to do about it specifically?
That's a wonderful question, and I'm glad that this question was posed. The schools need to be fully funded on the Rockaways and on the mainland. We need to make sure that there is not a digital divide, that children have the resources to be successful. We need to look at the minutia. We need to make sure that not only do they have the technology, that the teachers have the training that they need. In this remote world, we need to make sure that the homes, every home, has the level of broadband that's necessary. In addition to that, we have a population of ESL students and a population of MLL students who need those supports as well, as they're multi-language learners. We need to also make sure that our students with disabilities have their IEPs, the items that are in their IEPs are met. Those are things that are federally mandated. So we need to make sure that we are bringing the funding into the schools. There is no reason for our families to have to go to other communities to be educated. We need to centralize it. We need to make pathways so that parents feel comfortable in the school, making the decisions, opening up the PTA so that they can make strong decisions inside the schools as well about the education that their children are receiving.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
So Tanegra, if you can, certainly put the questions in the chat.
Yes, sure. Hello, District Leader James. Good evening.
I am here.
I'm going to repeat the question for you if you need me to.
Not at all. So let's talk about that. So let me start by saying this. I have 3 children who are school-age children. One is in 8th grade, one is in 7th grade, the other one is in 5th grade. When my kids started going to school and they took the test for the gifted and talented program and they did well, I received a letter from the Department of Ed saying that there were no gifted and talented seats in District 29, which happens to be part of the 31st. I wrote to the city to ask why there are no gifted and talented seats. I got a form letter, so clearly there's something wrong. My kids are now going to school in District 26. Let me tell you what they're doing in District 26, so that you all understand. In District 26, my kids have free after school 5 days a week. Free. They have free tutoring and Spanish on Saturdays. Free. This is in District 26. That's Bayside and other communities. I went to a meeting that was held in one of the churches in our local communities where all of the elected officials from Southeast Queens were present. And I asked the question, why do not these programs exist in Southeast Queens? One of the elected officials stood up and said, you know, that's our problem. We always complaining about our own. That is unacceptable. Our children deserve better, and they deserve somebody who's willing to fight for them. We can talk about all of the deficiencies at the Department of Education, but we need to have elected officials in our communities who are fighting for the people who live in our communities. I want my children to have a great education.
Thank you, Reverend James. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
I need someone to repeat the question because I was logged off and I kept trying to get in 4 or 5 times. I don't know what's going on with the technical part.
But can you see?
Sorry about that.
Excuse me, I can't hear you. What was?
You see it in the chat?
No, the chat's not even on.
Okay.
And I was logged off. I was logged off 3 times.
Okay,
that maybe it's the connection. I apologize for that. Can you hear me clearly? I'm going to.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for definitely having me here, dear. What's the question?
The question is, Rockaway Public Schools are failing our children. That is a fact. Our parents are not interested in politics. They're only interested in excellent schools with quality education that give their children the opportunities they deserve. What are you going to do about it specifically?
Well, specifically, since I've been to PS 105, 198, junior high school, IS 53, I know how left behind the Rockaways has been with the public school system. I can't see how certain students, the Department of Education give them so much money for up the beach, and then on this side, per pupil, they give so much less money to our students. We need to really advocate and fight and get the majority of our Department of Education to pay more per student so we could give them the education that they're supposed to be getting.
That's good.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything?
And I don't know if you missed it. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, I don't know if you missed it, honey. If you can, I just wanted to remind her that you can pass on a question to save your time if you so choose, but you've answered. So
No, I don't want to pass on no questions. I'm with this. I want the constituents to hear, because this is very serious, and what you're doing is a great thing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, Dr. Rux. Do you
Hello.
need me to repeat the question?
No, not at all. Let's just jump in. So I'm a parent of public school children. So this question absolutely hits home for me as well as so many of us. You know, we talk so much about equity and access for all, but how often do we actually see it? I really believe that we need a community college in the Rockaway area. It could absolutely serve our gifted and talented students, as well as serve as a way to support in so many other ways as well. Just like it's done at Townsend Harris, which is located on the Queens College campus. You know, a community college in our area could support after school programs as well as enrichment programs. And we do know that 3K programs are funded, but after school programs could be funded just the same. I truly believe that a community college would serve so many additional needs. It could really serve as a business incubator out here and provide thousands of jobs that would be created, construction jobs, union jobs. You know, we have LaGuardia College, community college, which already serves as a business incubator, and we could have that right here in Rockaway. You know, and truth be told, I have the capacity to lobby the New York State Chancellor, Dr. Lester Young, who's a mentor of mine, to help get this work done. I have relationships with the state education department, who we know has the largest educational budget in the state. So a community college would support small business, improve teaching and learning, as well as improve restaurants and economic development. And it could really provide services for ballet, karate, etc. It just could really be a hub of the community that would help to bring so much more growth and economic development, as well as improved education to our district.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Dr. Rux.
Thank you. Sean, it's fine.
Sean's fine.
Next candidate. Unmute.
You're on mute.
Damn, it happens to the best of us. So I do want to say District Leader James was on point. He did a great job at pointing out the issues. There's been a whole lot of lack of investment within our schools, and a lot of these issues are not new. They're 50 years old. One thing I believe in is it takes a village to raise a child. And we actually have a plan called Equity Through Education that we are pushing, which includes creating a PTA matching funds program so that our PTAs can compete with PTAs around the city, where the city can provide 10 times the amount and match whatever a PTA can raise up to $5,000. I also want to see all of our schools convert to community schools. Community schools open their doors to the community. They invite local community-based organizations in, and they get provided more resources, and we can also use them as temporary community centers while we fight to get a community center for our neighborhoods, Laurelton, Rosedale, and Springfield Gardens. I've also planned on having a parent engagement plan for each school within the district. We have 31 schools in the district. We're going to them, and we need more gifted programs in our district.
Great job, Manny. Thank you. Thank you very much. As Tenegra is getting her camera set up. Okay. All right, we're back. All right. So next. Okay, as the next person comes on, I hope everybody's paying note and attention to some of these responses. You have to vote. So we want to make sure that you're getting your questions answered. These are the questions that you, the community, want to know. You want to know how your elected officials are going to be handling the responsibility of our children. Like many of the candidates, my daughter goes to school in Springfield Gardens, and I'm a resident here in Queens also. So these things are very, very important to us all. Okay. Next. Okay.
Candidates, please make sure that you remember your queue, your place in the queue. This is a long program because we have a lot of candidates participating, so we do need to keep the program rolling.
So please make sure that you are available.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Ms. Brooks. Can't hear you. There you go.
Hi, how are you? So that's an amazing question. So let's jump right into that. I've continued to talk about the lack of equity in our schools across Southeast Queens as I talk to parents and residents, regardless if they live in Laurelton, Springfield Gardens, Rosedale, or the Rockaways. We all share the same concern, and that is the fact that no matter where you reside in this district or how much your household income is, the fact remains the same that our schools continue to be underfunded. I've heard that for education leaders in our community as well. And unfortunately, this is not as a result solely on COVID-19, but it has been exacerbated through the pandemic, where we have students who are remote learning without adequate resources. The public schools have seen a 4% decline in enrollment. Our achievement gap continues to widen. And when you look at states like Maryland, they were able to give every child a laptop powered with internet connection. And we're here in New York City where 74,000 students are without the proper resources to do their schoolwork. And that's unacceptable. So we need to invest in our schools. We need to demand greater transparency. But in terms of the investment, we need to also look broadly at STEM as well. But thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Lavinia Brooks Powers. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Next candidate.
Victim?
Candidate.
Okay. Tenegra, don't forget questions in the chat. I know it's helpful to them.
Yes. I decided I don't want to post them prior to, so the person last doesn't have an advantage.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Next up. Okay.
I think I have a nice 1 to 2 sentence summary of ranked choice voting that I'll interject with right now. I know so much has been said. As soon as the candidate is queued up, I'm going to stop talking. But ranked choice voting, this cycle for city races, you can choose up to 5 candidates in your order of preference, 1 being the candidate that you would prefer to be the winner, 2 being your second option, and 3 and 4, and so on. There are a list of things that you don't want to do to avoid having your ballot disqualified, thrown out by the Board of Elections. I believe at the end of this program, or moving forward, we are going to publish a list of things you want to avoid doing. on your ranked choice voting ballot. And it looks a little different if you are doing it absentee or if you're doing it in person. So we'll provide some guidance on things you want to avoid. But if you are going to share with your fellow voters this new system of voting, the main thing you want to relay is that you can now choose up to 5 candidates, number one being your favored person to win, number 2, number 3, and so on. I'm not sure why we're having are they not online? We may have to see people if they're not going to be available under queue.
Well, what they did was everybody went for question 1. So we'll look through some of the others and see as people start to come back on. But I think just to, as while they get that situated, speaking about ranked choice voting, what is your personal take on it this year and the fact that we now have this option for voting?
Oh, it's too hot in here, honey, for your computer signaling. My take on it, I think a lot still needs to be done about informing the voters about this process. Candidates should employ a lot of strategy around this. A win looks a lot different than it did with, voters being able to select just one person. So something for the candidates to think about and work out a strategy around. And again, a lot needs to be done to inform the voters about this process, about what not to do and what their options are. And I also hear people telling candidates really the benefits of choosing up to 5 or more than one. I do think people, my personal take is I do think people should talk about what it means to only choose 1 or only choose 2 or 3 or versus 5. I will stop there because this is not about my opinion. Really, the education piece is that constituents, voters need to know that they can choose up to 5 people. I believe I'm solo now. And forgive me, folks, I am not looking at social media, so I'm not seeing your questions. I'm going to try to take a look now to see if there's something I can respond to. And forgive me, folks, I am not looking at social media, so I'm not seeing your questions. I'm going to try to take a look now to see if there's something I can respond to. And forgive me, folks, I am not looking at. I believe we're having some technical difficulties here. Awkward. Because I believe we went through the full list of candidates, I'm going to go ahead and read my second question. So for those candidates that are still listening, you'll be prepared with this question. Universal 3K has been a landmark program in Southeast Queens. Although introduced by Mayor de Blasio early in his administration, with a promise that universal pre-K would become permanent, the preliminary fiscal year 22 executive budget does not allocate specific funding for our council district. If elected to the city council, what are you going to do to correct this obvious attack on the children and families of this community? So universal pre-K has not been funded in the preliminary fiscal budget. What would you do to either replicate a similar program or to correct this problem? That is the question. I will repeat it once the candidates come back on, but I'm not sure what's happening here. Hi, Ms. Benjamin. That was awkward. No. Do I need to repeat the question? Technology. Well, there's not much we can do about these snafus.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Brooks Powers. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I heard the question and I would be fighting to ensure that we are able to fund the 3K program. It's something that is critical. We even saw in this pandemic how very important education and childcare is for families. And we have to make sure that we're investing at an early state for our young people. I had the opportunity to fill up a couple of buses when even UPK was the initial signature program for Mayor de Blasio to send parents from the Rockaways actually and other parts of Southeast Queens to Albany to advocate for funding. We saw last year where the mayor left off a lot of critical things, even money for sanitation. And so we understand we're in a very tight budget constraint right now with the $5 billion deficit that we're faced with, but there are some things we have to try and hold the line for, and investing in our children at an early age is critical. And I think I lost you, Tanagra, but I'm respecting my 1 minute. And now I can't hear you, but I see your mouth moving.
No, you didn't lose me. I'm just trying to give the candidates the floor completely.
Okay, Ms. Collins, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Because I was talking my little heart away earlier. This question is so dear to me because I started a program called Curriculum Inc. in response to brain research. And the brain research said that our children are developing way before formal education, kindergarten. So not only would I fund pre-K 3, pre-K 4, but I would go a little bit deeper based on my knowledge and even look into a pre-K 2 with a curriculum edge that also puts in information, not only the child care section, but also paying attention to curricula that fosters learning at that level. Because again, brain research does say that it's important to start children at an educational process earlier. The reason I put the program together for the community is because I saw a lack of. And a lot of our kindergarten students in the Black community were failing. They were failing kindergarten because they weren't prepared earlier. So this is definitely something that I would fund. This is something that I was already doing even before Mayor de Blasio put forth the effort for the pre-K 3. And it was definitely something that I would continue because there is a need for it in our district across the board. Thank you.
Next candidate, please.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for the question. Let me say this. Yes, pre-K programs are essential for our community. There's no question about it. However, at the same token, we need to be mindful of the fact that the city is facing a $5 billion budget gap. $5 billion is a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to figure out how we're going to make up that $5 billion budget deficit. And I quite frankly think that the $5 million might in fact be an understatement because these are out-year financial obligations that we have to take a look at. Now, what I would also consider is this. if indeed the mayor's budget does not consist of the pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 programs, or there is no funding for it, we also can look at the possibility of possibly giving a tax credit for parents to be utilized for pre-K programs of their own choosing. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a one size fits all. We already talked about the fact that some of the schools aren't performing at the level we would like them to. So the idea of a tax credit that allows parents to be able to go to programs that are effective, that are doing a great job, that are really having an impact is something I think we need to look at. But let's not forget, with everything that the city has to do, there's a price tag for it, and it's paid for by the taxpayers of the city of New York. The question is whether or not, in this current economic situation that the city finds itself in, can we really afford to raise taxes on people who are already paying much more than they should be paying? And where's the money going to come from? Politicians love to tell you that they're going to give you everything, and nobody wants to tell you how they're going to pay for it. I'd like to know how they're going to pay for it. So I'm suggesting today, yes, we need the program. Maybe we can look at some tax credits in order to be able to make the difference. But certainly we need to be able to, to be mindful of the fact that there comes a point at which you cannot just tax all of the residents to death. I don't think that that's a feasible path to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Next candidate, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because the last time I thought I was speaking to myself. We have a deficit in this city and throughout the world, and it continues to grow. But our children come first. Our children have been left behind for way too long. I'm in education. I develop curriculums for adults that come from all over different parts of the world. I think that we could develop curriculums, and we have to get creative with the change of system that we have now. We're undergoing a pandemic and everything has changed. But we need to figure out, we need to fight. That has to be priority for our children. They're being left behind, and we have to start them early. So I am definitely to start children pre-K, even before pre-K. We could start them at 2 years old and start them getting into program and develop curriculums to them so they could start advancing and developing certain ways and certain ways of skills so they won't be left behind. Our children have been left behind way too long, but we also need to be conscious of the fact that we're going through a serious time in this world right now. And we need to be creative as to how we're going to continue with education and to how we're going to continue to survive through all these changes that we're going through.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Next candidate, please.
Good evening. Look, here's how we're going to pay for it. One, I'm going to talk to Dr. Young, my mentor and colleague, the New York State Education Department Chancellor, who I'm the only one actually in this race who has connections that go beyond the city budget. And as far as the budget goes, I know where some fat can be cut. Like we're spending so much money on heating and lighting buildings, even though 20% of our students are in those buildings. Shifting budgets from and funding from the police department in regards to police and schools, where any employee who's in a school building should be under the principal's supervision. But more specifically, you brought up that date 2022. Look, I'm in tune with the legislation, legalities, and budgeting surrounding actually improving schools. And mayoral control is a big topic that's coming up. We know that in 2022, that's when we actually have an opportunity to shift that. And I personally believe that we need to get rid of mayoral control and put the school board system back in the hands of the people, of the community. We know that mayoral control really offers efficiency over this fractured system, but we can change that. And mayoral control assumes this one size fits all ideology, thinking that everything's the same. What happens in Far Rockaway is not what's taking place in Park Slope, Brooklyn. So we need to give that leadership and power back to school boards who effectively make decisions for their children. And I think that that's the route that we need to go. And we'll make sure that we get those programs continuously funded moving forward.
Awesome. And I believe that should be fiscal year starting July 21. July 21.
Technology.
Wow. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. You held it down, though. I
The computer said it was heating up in here.
No, right. And the people, we got a bunch of people in the group, but it's all good. And great job asking the right questions, and the candidates love their responses. I think we're in good hands.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Right. Next.
The money is out there. Our last budget was $88 billion. There's enough money for a 3K to survive, and we have to make sure that it does. I know firsthand how important 3K is, because when my daughter was at the age of 3K, we put her in the programs, and I was broke, extra broke. So this gave me an opportunity not only to have some daycare, but for my daughter to be engaged and for her to socialize, which really helped her to where she's at right now at the age of 7. And I'm not going to city council to make friends. We're going to city council to make impact. I'm not going to city council to cozy up with other elected officials. We're going to city council to ensure that we can get on the budget negotiation team so that we're negotiating with the mayor directly and pushing to ensure that 3K is funded. We also need to organize our community so that we can make noise, so the next mayor is actually afraid that if they go against us, if they continue to neglect us like they've been doing for 50 years, there will be consequences. We have to build power within our own community. And I am also going to ensure that we send a message, and we send a message early on. 3K is important to me. I know firsthand, and I know it's important to our community and essential.
Thank you, Manny Silva. Appreciate it.
Next candidate. I just want to say I appreciate the candidates being so respectful of the time limit. We do have quite a few candidates to get through. We are limiting the program to just 4 questions. So this is question 2, which we're almost through with all of the responses. And so there'll be 2 more. Next candidate.
We're going to move to the next question.
That was the last one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, the 3rd question. To live in Southeast Queens is to live with flooding in the basement, in the streets, holes filled with flood water, and that's whether you live on the peninsula or the mainland. If elected to the city council, what are you going to do about it? Specifically, how would you begin to address this long-standing issue that affects the bottom line of small businesses, consumers, as well as homeowners?
Hi, thank you so much for that question. And so I would be prioritizing funding to capital funding to continue the work that has already begun in terms of improving our infrastructure. You're absolutely right. We see flooding in Rosedale. We see it in parts of Springfield Gardens, just like in Rockaway. Actually, a few weeks ago, I drove past a major flood in Rosedale, as well as had to call 311 because there was standing water in Laurelton. And so we need to continue prioritizing the investment because it impacts the homeowners, as you mentioned, as well as the local businesses. So that is something that's a must. I've always been someone that's advocated for investing in our infrastructure. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Next.
Hi, thank you. So this is a very important question. As a homeowner here in Southeast Queens, I can remember at the start having to get home insurance and the insurance provider telling me, you're going to have to pay extra because you live in a flood zone. So you're going to have to pay flood insurance because of where you live. I did a little research, and a lot of the homes in the area were built in a rush and there wasn't drainage put into place, to protect against backups and things to that effect. I am seeing some work towards fixing it, but I don't know how sound it is, because I've seen in the community, specifically in Rosedale, where they've been working on it, yet the floods still persist. The backup still persist. So it's definitely a capital funding project that needs to be done, but it needs to be done effectively and it needs to be done efficiently. To live in an area and have to pay extra for flood insurance because things haven't been taken care of or priorities have not been looked into is definitely a disservice. And if elected and when elected into city council, that's definitely something that I would look into to have taken care of once and for all. I don't want to see beautiful benches at Brookville Park and tennis courts when we have flooding where people can't even drive down the roads in the community. So priority, I would definitely prioritize that.
So if you live in Springfield Gardens and Rosedale, that issue in particular, we're all feeling that firsthand. So that's something that we certainly want to address.
Hi. So, yeah, I mean, clearly, we don't need to talk about the fact that that is a huge issue. First thing I would say is that DEP needs to accelerate the plan to install sewer relief. That's number one. But we also need to understand that the city allowed these developers and these builders to build properties or build homes in areas that are prone to flooding. I've spoken to numerous homeowners in Rosedale and in Springfield Gardens who bought their homes, live in their homes, and every year they have to have a sump pump to pump water out of their building. They're spending $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 to have their basement redone over and over again. The city knew that there was a flooding problem in those areas. They should have never allowed construction to take place without first dealing with and finding some mitigation to address the flooding issue. It does not make sense. Who goes and builds a house on sinking sand? It boggles my mind. So I think that, we need to address, the city needs to address it. And maybe in some instances, guess what? Maybe the city needs to buy those homeowners out who can't get any kind of relief because they allowed those houses to be built, and our elected officials as well. This is not a new problem for us. This has been going on since I was in elementary school, and it's still going on. So how many generations is it going to take to address this issue of flooding?
Very good. Excellent. Next.
I have seen my share of flooding through the 40 years as a resident in the Rockaways. Sometimes I need like a little rowboat to get out of my house. So I understand what Springfield and Rosedale are going through. And I seen that some of the properties were not developed properly due to the fact that it was many, many years ago. And now there's so many developments coming in. So I will definitely fund for infrastructure bill to be earmarked via DEP, especially to protect for those pipelines. And also, I would like to definitely find a way to, the flooding insurance is tremendous. I will also seek funding for federal elected officials to push in for the long water infrastructure bill that is so due. This is something that especially, I don't know if especially in November that it just flares up more, but when it rains, it's ridiculous. We can't even get to Rosedale. I feel what they're going through because I sometimes have to be driving through there. And it's a shame that all these elected officials for decades and decades, and we have been advocating and speaking out loud about the flooding, and nothing has been done. A bill definitely needs to be passed for the infrastructure to ease down on Rosedale and Springfield especially. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I believe we're going to give Ms. Benjamin an opportunity to jump in because we missed her in the lineup. Not necessarily this moment, but I just wanted to make sure that our producer on the back end loops her back in because she lost connection. Dr. Rux, I believe you were up next. Hello, Dr. Rux.
Hello. So
Repeat the question.
no, it's fine. Look, we know that flooding is an important issue that needs to be addressed immediately. Look, if there's no ground beneath us, then we can't even focus on any of the additional issues that plague our district. There's a need for seawalls, just like in Long Island City, just like in Brooklyn Heights. And what Tanya was talking about was Tropical Storm Isaias. You know, their combined sewers are the 1980s fix. Like that's so old school, and that's what they're doing and have done in Rosedale and Springfield Gardens. And we already know that they're too small. I mean, Isaias showed us that. That's what the storm showed us. And with so far behind, you know, we see these changes that have been made with waterfront areas and glass skyscrapers. And I don't believe the eminent domain, neither do the residents of Brooklyn Heights and Long Island City. We need to build seawalls to protect our Black wealth. Come on, I mean, we're talking about beachfront property in the greatest city on earth. You know, people want to give away and blame us for problems, but this is just like the digital divide. I mean, think about it. This meeting is prime example that the digital divide isn't just about having a device. All of us on this call have a device, but the connections, right? We need to regulate the telecommunication companies and make sure that we don't get less service for the same money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next candidate.
We all know the problem. I'm not going to repeat it. The front of my home turns into a lake every single time it rains. But I do want to educate some of the candidates here. City council members get $5 million in capital funding. An infrastructure project costs at the lowest $25 to $30 million. So a city council member is going to, even if you allocated all of your capital funds, it's not going to be enough. You have to get the mayor involved. We have to get the administration involved. There's currently $2 billion set aside just to fix flooding issues in Southeast Queens. We need to make sure we're getting our fair share because at this time we're not. There are certain projects that are already designed and ready to go. They need to be funded. There's one project in Auburn. There's one project in right on Brookville. It keeps getting pushed back. We can't be nice anymore. We have to take the gloves off and we have to push our elected officials and especially the mayor to fund these projects. There is also the issue of Snake Road. Snake Road, there's a design that the governor put together and there's funding for it and we need to find out where that funding went. FYI, the city can't buy entire neighborhoods. That would be ridiculous and very, very costly. We also have to leverage our power as city council members when it comes to land use. Auburn East is coming to the Rockaways. We can use that to force the city to fix some infrastructure issues, put funding there. We can force them because they want to build affordable housing. They want to build housing. Well, guess what? In order to build it, you need a city council approval, and it's not going to happen if you don't give back to the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, is that? No, we still have Ms. Benjamin, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I want to be able to answer both questions. Is that all right, Tanagra? So I'm going to jump right in. So in terms of the flooding in our community, and it's definitely a problem. I lost one of my first cars on Snake Road due to the flooding. One of the things that I'm talking about on these platforms, I'm talking about what I want to do if I'm elected as city council. We're already doing the work. For the past couple of months, we have been in competition with some of the top universities like Cornell University and NYU to address sustainability and environmental justice issues in our community. There's two aspects to these responses that we have to think about. One is the community response, and the other is the policy and infrastructure response. So similar to like what Manny said, we have to hold the government accountable so that we have these capital funding that's coming to our community to address these floodplains. We have mixed heights in our community that have to be addressed. There's huge inequity issues in our community that has never been addressed historically that we have to respond to, right? But all of this sound like nice words, but if the community is not educated on what these issues are and actually know how to hold the elected officials accountable to ensuring that they respond to these issues, then everybody's just talking, right? So one of the things is that we have to organize, we have to come to the table with the subject matter experts, with the people that have an answer to our solutions, and just ensure that we just get the job done. It's just as simple as accountability. Now, going back in terms of the pre-K issue, and I didn't hear all the other candidates' response, but we're currently at over a $10 billion deficit in our city. So we want to make sure that whoever you decide to vote for as your next city council person, that they understand policy and they understand the budget, right? We have to be creative and think outside the box in terms of how we're going to address the issues in our community. When we talk about daycare for all, right now I'm in current conversation with the clergy and Dr. Noville, who serves as the educational task force, to really respond to the issue of how we're going to address services for our children. We have to reimagine how we solve our issues. We have to bring back these services into our community. The community is going to have to step up and have a response to how we educate our children and how we provide daycare services. For the past couple of months during the COVID pandemic, I have been responsible for helping schools and daycare centers get state funding to open up to address some of these issues in terms of daycare for all. Our district, which is BlaQue Resource Network, so I want to have a Black conversation. Our district is 66% Black, right? We have a lot of single mother households in our community, and no one's talking about the fact that there's a lot of parents in our community that have to choose between working their full-time job and providing daycare for our children. So we have to just come back to the table, and when we talk about recovery, our community, sit down with each other and do a design thinking model on how we're going to solve the issues. Government is the response, but we can't always depend on government. We have to use this position as this local city council position to really put the power back into the community, bring the infrastructure back into the community. And what I mean by that is like our local nonprofits. There's a lot of people on this line that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, that own nonprofits. You are the solution. How can we leverage? If I'm the next city council person, I want to have the next conversation about how we use the powers of city council to empower you to respond to these issues, and we can do it. And let's not wait till February 23rd. Let's not wait till June. We can address these now. Let's break down the silos. There's already people having conversation about how to address the environmental justice issues in our community, including funding, as well as the pre-K for all program, including daycare. Let's come to the table now, connect the dots, and let's make this happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Latoya. Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do have an additional candidate that joined us late. I'm not sure why, but in all fairness, we will give her an opportunity to jump in. Once she comes on screen, I can give her maybe one of the three questions.
She's not on yet.
She's not on yet?
She's not on yet.
Okay, Miss Nicole Lee will be joining us, I guess, at some point this evening. I can read the final question, and maybe she can jump in on that one. So again, this is the last question from me for the evening, and then we will move into closing remarks. Let me read you a sentiment. If our small businesses were not Black and brown owned, and they were not in Southeast Queens, would we be getting what we need to stay open and to save our local economy? How true is that? And what are you going to do about it? I'm going to rephrase because I got that wrong. If our small businesses were not Black and brown owned and they were not in Southeast Queens, we would be getting what we need to stay open and to save our economy. How true is that? And if it is, what are you going to do about it?
Well, in comparing what is happening with small businesses in Southeast Queens to other districts that aren't of business owners who are Black, we are seeing that there are more resources for whatever reason. What I need to see and what I would like to see for our community is that our small businesses are prioritized as well. There are many businesses in District 31 that have closed for good, not to reopen. And that is definitely unfortunate. What I would do about it is I would make sure that there were programs, grants available to our community, prioritize those, and even go a little bit further and connect, increase opportunities. The Small Business Administration has several programs. Connect with them so that we can get additional funding, additional things for startups to solidify the Black businesses in the community with seed funding, grants, space, all of the things that are necessary. So there is inequity when we're looking at the businesses that are closing, and I think that should not be, whether it's Laurelton, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens, and on the Rockaways. We definitely need to get what's necessary so that we can stay open and so that we can flourish in our district. There is no need for us to shop and patronize businesses outside of our district. We need to pour into them, make sure that they're solid, make sure that we're getting the funding that we need for our Black entrepreneurs. And we need to celebrate these types of things to continue to make our community strong. And I'm going to put forth action, not a bag of mouth.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Next candidate.
So thank you for that question. And what that statement is a fact, in my opinion. We saw at the start of this pandemic where PPPs were being distributed and Manhattan was prioritized in terms of businesses that receive those fundings. Our small local businesses need support. They need relief now. They don't need loans, they need grants. And we need to fight and demand from the federal government on down that funding be allocated to ensure that local businesses that are especially businesses owned by minorities and women are able to receive those benefits. And I have been working on this issue as well. I was able to meet with the New York City Small Business Service Commissioner several months ago with local leaders and have this conversation and talk about the need about on behalf of the small businesses. In Southeast Queens, a closed business is much more than an empty storefront. That's the loss of jobs because most of these small businesses are hiring people from in the community. This is potential for mortgages going into default because a lot of the business owners will take out their loan for their business from their home. So this presents an unfortunate opportunity for a ripple effect in our community, and we cannot stand down right now. We have to demand that we get proper funding and resources for our local businesses. And it is really criminal, the fact that our communities continue to be under-resourced, especially in times like this, especially considering that our community has been devastated time after time again, especially when you talk about the mortgage foreclosure crisis and how we've been impacted, and to look at how critical our small businesses are right here in the community. And so I've been fighting around this issue. I've been working with small businesses, and as city councilwoman, I would also be prioritizing and demanding that our city agencies and our state and federal partners come together and be able to bring resources and bring the funding to communities of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Next candidate, please.
Hello. So let's do a couple of things. First and foremost, the question that was raised is different from that which is indicated in the red across the screen. So the question is whether or not
I believe we have some character limits, so it's just like a little
so
summary.
let me finish. So let me make my statement.
So I can
The
repeat the
question
question for you, District Leader James, if you like. I can repeat the entire question.
I mean, you can if you want to. Thank you.
You can go ahead in the interest of time if you
No,
understand.
go ahead. Please do.
Okay, so I'll read you a sentiment. If our small businesses were not Black and Brown owned and they were not in Southeast Queens, they would be getting what we need to stay open and to save our local economy. How true is that?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I don't believe that that's necessarily true because we've seen a lot of small businesses in a lot of communities all across the city and all across the country that has been decimated by this pandemic. However, what I will say is this, that we have what you call disparate impact. The impact is greater in our community simply because the small businesses in our community, number one, don't always have all of the access to resources that other businesses and maybe in other communities might have had. So even the smallest changes has a tremendous impact. The other thing is we have to be honest with ourselves. Not all of the businesses in our community are owned by us. That's a reality. So we really need to go back, and this is a tremendous opportunity for us, I think, to begin to re-envision really creating small and minority businesses in our community, Black businesses in our community. Because a lot of the businesses in our community, though they may be small, they're not necessarily owned by us. The other thing is we also need to work with our local businesses because one of the major drivers of costs in terms of owning a business is rent, owning the property. We need to start talking to our business owners about being able to own the property that their businesses are located in so that when they have a landlord who decides they want to change the rent structure and raise the rent 50% overnight, that will drive them out of business, that they're not subject to those types of things. So yes, it has a disparate impact, but no, we see small businesses all across this country, all across this city, who have been tremendously impacted, who have just gone out of business. And I'm not sure that there's any room for them to come back. But we need to build it back. We need to build it stronger. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that Black and minority businesses are included in this new build it back structure that we talk about, because it's critical for our not just for short-term survival, but for our long-term survival. The last thing I want to say is we also need to give them the resources that they need in order to be strengthened. We need to be able to provide them with the technical resources, whether it's developing the business plan, whether it's how to enlarge your line of credit, how to purchase the property, how to make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's, how to have your financial statements in order. We don't just want businesses, but we want businesses that will thrive in our community, create jobs for our community, allow families to be able to live what I consider to be a decent life in our community. So yes, we have to do some things to help them, but a lot of businesses all across the country are suffering right now.
Okay, District Leader James, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. So it's, it's not true, or it's partially true, but we do know that there are programs and grants that we're really missing out on. I mean, as we speak, like I mentioned earlier, it's Restaurant Week, and there are those running who currently work or worked for elected officials and actually had their opportunity to help. It's a matter of our current set of constituent service workers have failed to connect with these owners. And that's criminal, that our community is being cut off from free marketing and promotion from a website that gets millions of page clicks monthly, NewYorkCity.gov. So we know it's not just race. And in addition to that, we know that there are so many disparities regarding MWBE. 55% of our city is Black and brown, but only get less than 3% of those contract dollars. And to me, that's a formula for poverty and underdevelopment. We have the talent, we have the creativity, the ingenuity, and the potential, but The thing we're lacking is the access to the contracts. And I've supported MWBEs as well as Black and brown owned businesses as a principal and as a deputy superintendent. And I can talk about things that I've already done and commit to continuing that work as your councilman.
Very good. Thank you.
Capital J.
Not sure if everyone knows what constituent services actually is, but reach out to me if any candidates need to know, and I will let you know. Most of our small businesses aren't Black and aren't locally owned. We're going to do something about that. We're going to bring an entrepreneur training program to the district, and then we're going to try to partner with SBS to provide some discretionary funds for seed money so that we can have more Black-owned and locally owned businesses. For the few small businesses that do exist in our community that are owned locally and owned by Black people, they're not getting even offered the opportunity to be a part of some grants. Our Small Business Services, which is the agency responsible for helping our small businesses, has created a real discrepancy. Now, we will advocate for a business improvement district in the district, in Laurelton and Rosedale and Springfield Gardens. We will advocate for SBS to bring the Neighborhood 360 program, which will also come with a commercial needs assessment to our district. We will support a strong nonprofit that can provide that technical assistance that is lacking in our communities. Because right now we don't have anything that can provide small businesses with that help. We will also push to have Chamber on the Go, which is SBS's mobile unit, come to our district. I just want to let you know that we need people in power that are going to push for these things and really make them happen. We are also going to push for a facade program where the city covers 70% of the cost to fix up your storefront. It's called the Storefront Improvement Project. A lot has gone to Rockaway, Far Rockaway. And I know this because I've been there for 3 years. I was with Donovan Richards. We need a lot to come to Rosedale, Merrick Boulevard, as well as Springfield Gardens. And because I know exactly what we need, we're going to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So a couple of things. I want to answer the question the way it was asked. Absolutely. The COVID mandates drastically impacted the small businesses, not only in Southeast Queens, Black and brown small businesses, not only in Southeast Queens, but all across this nation. 54% of Black and brown businesses died during the pandemic, and it's expected to increase up to 80% as we go along. As many of you know, I've been endorsed by the business community here in Southeast Queens and it's one of the main reasons why I'm running to be the next city council member, because we have to ensure that our small businesses survive through this pandemic. I want everyone to write down and research the term, the fourth economy. The fourth economy is what we're moving towards. So not only was the COVID pandemic a health crisis, but it was also an economic crisis. And what it has done is that it has pushed the economy, the national economy and the global economy into the fourth economy, right? Into the fourth industrial revolution. So businesses are going to be innovative. A lot of businesses are not coming back. We have to provide more services to our businesses. They need the support. We've already been doing the work. A lot of you already online, many of you who I have worked with already have the infrastructure in place, but you just need more support. You need more support from your federal, state, and your local government. Each branch of government has a responsibility to support our small businesses. And if I'm elected as your next city council person, I will ensure that we align our federal, state, and local policies to ensure that we have the services that we need. In addition to government, the private sector also has a role in ensuring that our small businesses survive, right? We can reach out to foundations. We can go to our local CDFIs. We can go to our local banks. I've been responsible for the past 4 years serving as a director of economic development and working with our business community to ensure that we're receiving access to capital, holding our financial institutions accountable, educating the community on what's happening behind the scenes, what they are doing, what they're not doing, leveraging local policies, existing policies that are already on the books to secure thousands of dollars into our community. So that's what I will continue to do if I'm elected. We do have to address the fact that there is huge inequities in our businesses. The fact that we're shut down, our businesses can't operate, but we have to go to Green Acres and Long Island, which is less than a mile away from Southeast Queens, and they're up and running. It's called capital leakage. Our money is going to other businesses in Long Island and not into our community. And I don't think it's by accident. I think it's on purpose. And we have to organize and be educated and use our political power for economic growth and address these issues. There's no reason why Long Island businesses is open and we can't get a drink in or have some food in our own community. We have to address that. And if we come together, organize, and make our issues clear, we can get that done. And you can get that done with me as your next city councilwoman.
Excellent. Thank you. Tenegra, you're on mute.
Yes, I sure am. Just show me the.
It's getting hot. It's getting hot.
Yeah, I appreciate the responses that are specific to the questions. Next candidate, please. Ms. Martinez.
Hey, how are you? I was logged off like 5 times. Can you just repeat? Are we ending this? This is the roundup?
Yep, this is the last one, and then you'll have an opportunity to give a closing statement.
Okay. So in case
I time, we will end by that 9 o'clock hour.
Okay.
So the question is, and I think you'll like this one, Ms. Martinez. I'm going to read you a sentiment. If our small businesses were not Black and brown owned and they were not in Southeast Queens, they would be getting what they need to stay open and to save our local economy. Is that
absolutely they would. Absolutely, they will be getting what they need.
What are you going to be doing about it?
I'm gonna say exactly that how it is. I am a small businesswoman, and for decades I've been struggling to fight that fight in order to stay alive. So I know what it is. I'm part of the MWBE, and I am chair of the Rockaway East Merchants Association, which has been truly a struggle to educate, to make sure that our merchants are not closing. Too many of them are closing, especially through this challenging time. I work diligently with SBS, and now I've received a $900,000 grant for our small merchants in the Rockaway East sector, but they need a lot more. They need a lot more funding because every day they're closing and closing more and more. If I am elected, I would definitely work with SBS, reach out to more funding, ask the state anywhere that it is to make sure that our small businesses remain open. This is something that is definitely a priority. And education, I want to go back to the pre-K part because I think I was shut off and I didn't hear the question correctly. But when it comes to the pre-K, I believe that it's also essential for our children to get the funding. So I will definitely be advocating and voicing my opinion and going to City Hall and changing and fighting for whatever kind of funding is there. I'm going to make sure I bring it to the 31st district because our businesses, our school, our teachers, our parents, everyone needs it on the 31st. So definitely I will be advocating for our small businesses because they definitely are Black owned and brown businesses, definitely more funding. It's too many of them closing on a regular basis and it's like no one cares.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I believe we have another candidate that we haven't heard from so far. If not, we will move right into our closing statements from the candidates, 1 minute each, you can address something that was from one of the 4 questions, or you can just give a general statement in closing. Where are my folks? Did we miss you, Ms. Brooks? My apologies. We switched the order, so I wasn't sure if everyone went or not. Sorry. Floor is yours.
So you want me to do my closing statement now? I answered the business question.
Right. Just to be fair, because I really do want to make clear to our audience that this was we're trying to give all the candidates as much as a platform to make their appeal to the voters as much as possible. But I don't think the other person has joined us. Ms. Brooks, you do have 1 minute for your closing statement, and we will continue with the candidates that are available.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the BlaQue Resource Network for providing this platform for people in our community to get to learn all about all of the candidates. I, once again, am ready day one to do this job. I've been doing the job. I've been delivering for the community. I have a vast amount of experience that does not reside on one position. I have done constituent work, working in the state Senate, leaving in the state Senate as the deputy chief of staff for the entire Democratic Conference. I understand the issues in the community. I fought for them. I worked at Peninsula Hospital until the doors closed. I understand how critical it is for us to get another hospital in our community. I've worked for the mayor's office, working with some of the most vulnerable population, survivors of domestic violence. I work currently on the JFK redevelopment program, which is the largest infrastructure program in the country, working to leverage that opportunity in terms of jobs and contracting opportunities. No other candidate can speak to the type of experience that I have. Not to mention, I've been doing the work. I've created testing sites for our seniors. I've distributed thousands of masks and gowns and sanitizers to the community through this pandemic. And I will continue to fight for you as your councilwoman. The reason I have been fortunate to get the endorsements from voters in our community, from civic leaders in our community, from elected officials, and now from labor is because I have that fight in me. I've done the work for many years in this community. And it's time for us as a community to come together, to organize, to build, and to ensure that our community thrives and so that we can also make it through this pandemic stronger and united. And I thank you once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to connect with you through every platform possible as we lead into the February 23rd special election. I ask that you vote for me as your #1 candidate, Sylvina Brooks Powers, on the Powers for Queens line. And you can visit my website at www.sylvina.com to learn more and how you can be a part of this growing movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, welcome back, honey.
Thank you. These cameras, boy. So we're giving everybody what? Is it 30 seconds?
1 minute or less. 1 minute maximum.
Okay. Closing remarks.
Again, I'm LaTanya Collins, candidate for City Council for the 31st District. I want to start by thanking the BlaQue Resource Network. You're doing a wonderful thing by being a hub for Black businesses in the community, making sure that they are able to have a foundation to network and to share resources. That's very much needed. And it is a wonderful opportunity to springboard for the things that we need. I am running because I want to see more for us. We deserve it. Our families, our children, our communities, our businesses. We deserve to be prioritized in every way possible. This is a beautiful, diverse community, and I want to see our community flourish. I've been working in the school systems with families and with children. I know what our needs are. I know what our wants are. I think it's time that we have someone in City Council with the voice that's knowledgeable, that's strong, and that's ready to do the work. And I believe that that is definitely me, LaTanya Collins, and you can find out more about me at latanyacollins.com. And I hope to be your very first choice with ranked choice voting.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you.
We have less than 9 minutes before we end this program, and about 7 candidates left to speak with a minute each. Please continue. Ms. Martinez, you're up. Yours.
Well, I am not a politician. I have never worked for a politician. I am a businesswoman who have been investing in her community, who have educated individuals for over a decade, who have done job placement for individuals, who have created curriculums for individuals, who have helped the merchants stay afloat, especially through this pandemic, who have helped the seniors get assistance through the COVID-19 and throughout 10 years of decades. So if elected, I am there to make sure that I have the strong voice to fight for the individuals who've been neglected, to make sure that because of this deficit that we have in this time of hardship and this time of total different changes are out there, I will be willing to be that voice for you and fight for you all through City Hall to make changes and bring it to the 31st Council District. I have been doing education, job creation, healthcare for decades, and I have invested in our community. And this is why I want to be your city council person. So if elected for city council, please on election day, just vote Nancy Martinez #1, and I will be there to make sure that the 31st district gets what they need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just reminding folks, 1 minute each, please. Next candidate.
Thank you, BlaQue Resource Network, for hosting this. Listen, let me say this, and I'll echo Ms. Martinez. I'm not a politician. I've never worked for a politician. I'm a community advocate. This forum, ladies and gentlemen, has told us everything we already knew. No surprises. Our community has been underserved for far too long. We have a choice to make. We can continue doing what we've been doing. We can continue voting for the same old political hacks, same old that we've been voting for, who pretend to deliver things, but they haven't delivered anything other than talk about the fact that they have endorsements by other political hacks, some of whom are under investigation. Or we can go in a different direction. I submit to you today that the time for change is now. Sherwin James, your choice for city council, fighting for you. Thank you, and thank you, BlaQue Resource Network, for hosting this most important event. God bless you all.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Thank you so much to the BlaQue Resource Network and the entire community for this conversation. Listen, we've shared a lot of great ideas and we presented a lot of problems as well. I hope my answers revealed my ability to problem solve, expand our vision, and create a different future. You know, my entire work experience has shown that I can expand upon opportunities, close gaps, and inspire new thought. I really need you to vote for me. I'm committed to you. I'm committed to fighting for you. What I've done in education, what I've done as a teacher, a principal, and deputy superintendent, I will absolutely do as your New York City Council member in District 31. And I want to represent you. Once again, my name is Dr. Sean Rux, and I'm asking for your first choice in the election on February 23rd. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Dr. Sean Rux, thank you very much. Next candidate.
All right. What we are building through this campaign is true people power for our community. I was born and raised in this district by a single mother, and now I'm raising my daughter in this district. And I want to make sure that she is not seeing the same things I was seeing 20 or 30 years ago. I'm tired of us being neglected and taken for granted. We're going to take things and we are going to take things to the next level. We're going to get what's ours. We're going to organize civics. We are going to mentor 100 young people. We are going to build our small businesses and give them that support they need. We are going to bring more locally owned businesses. And we're not here to play games. I'm not here to continue to do what has been done. I was the chief of staff for Donovan Richards for 3 years. I learned the good, I learned the bad. Before that, and that was my first taste in politics. Before that, I was the project manager of the Far Rockaway Arbor Nonprofit Coalition. So let's talk about experience. Before that, I was organizing young people around participatory budgeting. Before that, I was converting traditional businesses into businesses where the workers were the owners. Before that, I was a congressional affairs specialist for FEMA. And during all that time, I also sat on Community Board 14. We cannot continue to support people that are supported by people that we want to change. My experience in politics has taught me what I need to start on day one. But we need to take this beyond this election. We need to start coming together even after February 23rd. And if you want true change, put me as your number one. But also look into Sherwin James, look into LaToya Benjamin, look into Nancy Martinez. We cannot have the same old, and make sure you're not ranking people that will give you the same old, Thank you for allowing me to have this time tonight. And I hope that while the chat is getting real spicy, we can all come together February 24th to build with one another. Vote for me as your number one, Manny Silva.
Okay, Manny, thank you very much. Can't hear you. LaToya, we can't hear you. Let's see if we can have the next candidate. Is there anybody else?
Apologies to the candidates that are having technical trouble,
Yeah.
The technology is beyond our control in some instances. Still can't hear you, Ms. Benjamin. Still can't hear you.
She may try again, but I just want to remind everybody, early voting starts February 13th. So get out there, go vote. We've got ranked choice voting this time around, so you want to take advantage of that. You've heard the candidates. Powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be posting information about where your early voting sites are, as well as the do's or the things you want to avoid when you're completing your ballot this time around.
Absolutely. So we couldn't hear LaToya Benjamin, but maybe here we go. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Guys, it is that 9 o'clock hour. We are going to hang on for just a few more minutes. Thank you all I can't see how many people are out there because I'm not looking at the Facebook Live. I hear there's a lot going on there. Good. I don't know if the other candidate has joined us. We are willing to give her some time to address the audience. And I'm going to mention her, even though she may not be here. Miss Nicole Lee is a candidate. I think her slogan is Lee for Jobs. And unfortunately, we're only allowed 10 people on this platform. So I think she joined late and she was the 11th person, so she wasn't able to get in. StreamYard only allows 10 people. We try to be as fair in this process as possible, and I think we were. but she joined late and was not able to be let in. We are happy to let her in and have her have the last word, especially if Ms. Benjamin's audio continue to give trouble.
Now.
Well,
Okay.
Tanegra, I want to just share.
Okay,
I
what
see
about
that-
now?
there we go.
Oh God. Thank you. Digital divide. I got a plan for that too. Thank you guys. I want to say thank you so much to the BlaQue Resource Network for hosting this conversation. I look forward, I've been here since the inception of you guys and look forward to continuing to provide support. Listen, I don't want to share anything about like my background, what I have done. Let's have a real conversation. The bottom line is we're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. As our city recovers from this COVID pandemic, we definitely need the next representative in our city council seat that understands policy, that understands you, that is willing to make sure that you're at the table to speak truth to power. Let's address the inequities that exist in our community. Let's come together as one community to ensure that we have the resources that we need to advance our community. The bottom line is our district is 66% Black and African American. We have some of the most best markets in our economy. We have the JFK Airport right in our own backyard. There's no reason why we cannot use our political power to advance our social and economic power, right? So if we just make sure that you vote for me as your first choice, LaToya Benjamin for City Council, because I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid to go against the political status quo. I'm not afraid to tell you guys the truth. I'm not afraid to give you guys the real information that you need that's happening in these cities, agencies, and behind the scenes in our political systems to ensure that you have what you need to advance your agenda. We have to use our political power to advance our social and economic mobility, because things are getting worse, not only in New York, not only in this country, but across the world. And we are in a unique position. We are one of the wealthiest Black communities in this country. And if we use our political power the right way, we can ensure that we come out this pandemic at the top better than ever. So please vote for me, vote for someone that's real, vote for someone that's relatable, vote for someone that you understand, that you think is going to have your best interest, not even when they get in the seat, but best that has your best interest now. And I look forward to continuing to work with each and every last one of you to ensure that we have what we need to take it to the top. Thank you.
Excellent.
I hope y'all heard me.
We heard you. Thank you so much, LaToya. All right, so that's everybody, Tanegra.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think this brings us to a close.
So I just want to make a little disclaimer and just remind everyone that BRN is a neutral platform. This space is for resources. So we hope that you guys understand that. And listen, if you're not already following the BlaQue Resource Network, tell a friend to tell a friend. This is where it's at. So again, I know we want to thank the candidates, LaToya Benjamin, Sylvania Brooks Powers, Latanya Collins, Reverend James. We know we didn't get to see Nicole Lee, but we want to thank her. Oh, let's see here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me. You can't see me. But thank you also to Sean and Manny Silver. You guys did a great job this evening. Tanegra, thank you. And as we wrap,
have a great night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned to BlaQue Resource Network for more information on ranked choice voting and additional resources for Black-owned Queens businesses. Have a great evening.
Peace.
Good night. Thanks for having me.
Good night.
Good night.